Montana's only statewide sports talk show. Broadcast on 102.9 ESPN Radio for Western Montana and across the state on SWX Television.
I like football!
Now, the 2017 Radio Sports Broadcaster of the Year on the show with back-to-back Montana Broadcaster Association awards for sports coverage and award-winning sports journalism. Here is Ryan Tutel and Colter Nuanez.
Hello, Montana. Jim Harbaugh stirring the pot. The best teams with the best coaches, or are they, and why in the Big Sky? And what a day it was, the Open Championship. How about that? It's Tutel and Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio. We are broadcasting live from the Kurtz Polaris studios. Kurtz Polaris at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula, Highway 83 in Sealy. And July is Kurt's 30th birthday. That's right, 30 years they've been in business there at Kurtz Polaris, and they are celebrating by offering you, are you ready for this, 30% off. 30% off MSRP on select parts and accessories with the purchase of any new Polaris off-road vehicle, Husqvarna and Beta dirt bike, or any Crest pontoon boat. Some restrictions apply. See Kurtz for details. Get to Kurtz Polaris in Missoula and Sealy all month for Kurt's 30-year anniversary sale. If you would like to find us on the web, you can do that, 1029ESPN.com. There you can listen to the stream. No matter where you are, get in live to the big show. The stream brought to us by Opportunity Bank, your local bank, your opportunity. If you want to pick up your phone and call, well, we welcome that as well. 329-1899, the phone number, 329-1899. All guests join us via the Rankish Brothers RV phone line. Colter got a few things for the people today. Let's go through what we got. First of all, we're going to talk a little bit, not a lot, but a little bit about some stuff that we were discussing on our way back from Spokane. Again, the Big Sky Conference football week kickoff was this weekend for the media, getting everybody together over there in Spokane. And so we had a pretty good conversation on the way back, let the people in on what we were kind of discussing in terms of success and impression of coaches relative to the programs that they are now at and that they inherited. So we'll get into that. In that vein, we will also hear from Jay Hill, who is the head coach of the Weber State Wildcats. Jay, in his sixth season now. Is he going into six or going into seven at Weber?
Going into six.
Going into six, okay, but has really built Weber into a program, an absolute force.
Back-to-back Big Sky champs.
Right. And again, it doesn't feel like a high watermark. It feels like this is the level that Weber will be at for the duration of Jay Hill's tenure at Weber State.
Well, yeah, I mean, they won 28 games in the last 3 years. And, they got 11 win, and I guess they have back-to-back 11-win seasons. So I guess they actually have won, do the math, almost 30 games in the last 3 years, because they won 8 games back their first playoff appearance. So they've won a lot of games, and it's the most sustained stretch of success at Weber State. Weber State's been solid in the Big Sky Conference ever since being one of the charter members of the league, but they've never experienced this. The most comparative was in 2008-2009 when Weber shared the conference title with Montana. They might have actually not shared it in 2009. No, Montana won it outright in 2009, but Weber still made the playoffs. But they were back-to-back playoff appearances. They shared that 08 title because they beat the Grizz, and that's the one loss during that 32-game stretch where Montana went 31-1 again in the league. So that was a great Weber State team. Cam Higgins, the Offensive Player of the Year in the league, and Trevin Smith, the late Trevin Smith now. That's something we haven't really mentioned on this show. The late Trevin Smith passed away. One of the only players in the history of the Big Sky Conference to earn 4 straight first-team All-League accolades, and the only guy in the history of the Big Sky to rush for 1,000 yards in 4 years in a row.
Amazing.
And we heard some stuff, and it's personal stuff that we can't really talk about on the radio, but a very tragic way for him to go. And it's a bummer because I was at the 4th of July. I was with a couple guys who played defense for the Grizz. And I said, man, did you guys hear about Trevin Smith? And they were like, no, what happened? And I said, he passed away today. And they said, man, that guy was the toughest guy we ever played against. Mm-hmm. And I think anybody that watched him in Missoula would remember that as well. But regardless, Weber State is now operating at a higher level than they ever have before. And we'll get into a little bit of that. But I think it's a cool story that maybe is an undertold story, in the fact that Ron McBride was the coach at Utah for years and years and years. And then when he kind of drifted off and wanted to finish his career in the twilight that wasn't the Utah, and Utah was on this huge push to move up. Well, they replaced him with Urban Meyer, not a bad hire, and but Ron McBride then finished his career at Weber State. Well, Jay Hill played for Ron McBride at Utah, and now is building Weber State into the best version it's been since Ron McBride was there.
Yeah.
Like Jay Hill says in the interview that we'll play for you, Ron McBride's the biggest influence in his career and the best recruiter he ever saw, and that's where he gets a lot of his recruiting acumen. But you can see it in Jay Hill's players, and I think that's the interesting part about Weber is that they have not only recruited, but they've recruited and developed at a higher level than anybody in the league, with the exception of probably Eastern Washington. But Eastern's just not necessarily as much of a developmental program because they can get such high-caliber guys. But what Weber State is doing right now is very similar to what Montana did in the 2000s in terms of getting guys, projecting them, throw them in the weight room, letting them develop, and then when you're ready, roll them out there. It's like he told us about Iosua Opeta. I mean, if you saw Opeta at the kickoff last year, I mean, goodness gracious, he's 6'4", 310, and he's like flat stomach, and you're like, well, who is this 30-year-old? And Jay Hill told us he was 6'3", 235 pounds coming out of high school. So that's projection right there when you can say, oh, he might look like that someday. Pretty darn good.
Now, you know this is still the intro, right?
Well, we're still rolling.
Okay.
I mean, you got me going.
I guess so. Then in segment 2.
Oh, okay. We'll get into the rest of the show.
Carolyn, our dear friend Carolyn, who is our resident chick who doesn't know about sports, going to tell us a little bit about sports. We'll get into the Open Championship in the next hour. We're going to get into the NFL a little bit. The NFL, NFL.com released its top 5 wide receiver duos in the NFL. I take some exception. So we get into that, and maybe Jim Harbaugh, maybe what's going on over the weekend. So there you go. That's what we got coming up in the show. Coulter, it is a Friday. We'll let you jump back into your sweet spot of coaches and the Big Sky Conference. We'll hear from Jay Hill and all that. But we got to have ourselves something to get us through, something to lift our spirits heading into a beautiful weekend here in Western Montana. Florence Coffee. Boys and girls, you're driving around town. You're feeling like, okay, I'm stuck in traffic. What am I going to do? Here's what you're going to do. You're going to go to a Florence Coffee Company kiosk. You're going to get yourself an iced coffee, an iced tea, a smoothie, maybe my kids always want the muffin tops, the lemon poppy seed muffin top. You got to have it. You go in there, you get yourself a coffee. You can stay up late. You can sleep in. It's going to be a great weekend around Western Montana. It's going to heat up around Western Montana, which I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing. I've been enjoying this mid-70s deal. That's all right with me. You're going to have some coffee along with Coulter and myself. Florence Coffee Company coffee break. Thank you very much for that. Let me just take a little sip. Just goes down so good every single time. They nail it. Florence Coffee, our coffee break every Friday, thanks to them. All right, Coulter, how do you want to do it? You want to talk about what you wanted to talk about, or you want to hear from Jay Hill?
I don't know. I'm still trying to get my bearings about me here. I did that drench class again yesterday.
Okay.
It hurts. I'm sore.
Okay.
Sweatshop people doing it right.
So
the conversation that I want to have is not necessarily about Weber State as much as it is about the influx. When you have 13 teams in a league,
yes,
and you go to a media conference like we went to, it's almost guaranteed there's going to be 1, 2, sometimes 3, sometimes even as many as 4 new coaches in the league, depending on the situation, the ebbs and flows. And we've seen it. It's been interesting to have the new coaches be at places like Montana and Montana State recently. But then we've also seen so much turnover all the way across the league. And now it's almost fully turned over since I've moved back to Montana and started covering the league. And since the league expanded in 2012 and I started going to the Big Sky Kickoff, I mean, Tim Walsh at Cal Poly, I'm trying to think of the rest. I mean, everybody else, Ernest Collins at Northern Colorado,
yeah,
with the exception of that, everybody else has a new coach in that amount of time because, Mike Kramer has gone away from Idaho State. Bo Baldwin left Eastern Washington. Mick Delaney, Bob Stitt at Montana.
How long's Barney been over there in Portland?
Well, because Nigel Burton was the coach there when the league first expanded. This is Barney's 5th year.
Okay.
So there's been turnover at every single school. But I think that there's been, because of a lot of different factors, the unbalanced nature of the schedule in the Big Sky Conference in football, how many teams are in the league, the sort of anarchy that ruled the league for about a 5-year span just because of all these different factors, all these teams, all the travel, who's going to play who's doing what. almost everybody in the league got a piece of the pie. They either made the playoffs or shared the league title. I mean, there's been so many teams that traditionally had no success. I mean, even Idaho State posted an 8-win season under Mike Kramer. And so I think it maybe implied that there wasn't as much of that having a powerhouse coach wasn't necessarily of optimum. It wasn't completely necessary. Now, I think that we would have both agreed the fact that now the league has sort of reshifted, and we think that the Montana schools are going to be better, both playoff caliber for the first time in a half a dozen years, where they're both in the mix for the playoffs, and the fact that Eastern Washington, despite Bo Baldwin's departure,
not even both in the mix, but I expect both Montana and Montana State to be in the postseason this season.
I expect it. And I agree. I agree. And what I said about Weber State and the way Jay Hill's built it, and the fact that Aaron Best has been able to keep it rolling at least for 1 year post Bo Baldwin, and then the fact that perhaps the most innovative and accomplished and therefore scary if you're the rest of the league coach in the league, Dan Hawkins at UC Davis. Now he's got a place that everybody in the league has always thought was a sleeping giant, and it's his alma mater, and he's got it rolling instantly. I mean, year 2, they're the 7th seed in the playoffs. I mean, he got it rolling right away. And so I think that when you then look at it from that perspective, the rebalancing in the league has gone hand in hand with the fact that the guys that have the most gravitas, the guys that have the most bravado in the league, the guys that, I mean, I want to phrase this a little bit gently, but Northern Arizona has a new coach in Chris Ball. Who knows how that's going to go? It's such a unique situation taking over for a guy that's been there for more than 20 years in Jerome Sowers. Sac State has a new coach, and Sac State has just had so many different innovative guys try to go in there, and they've always hit that wall. They can't quite get over the top into the playoffs. But when you're sitting in that room, you can kind of feel the energy, and you can feel the way the whole thing works. And when you talk to the coaches about each other, especially the new coaches, you get some feedback. I didn't get the impression that anybody was shaking in their boots at the new guys this year. That's not the case like it was last year. We talked to every single coach in the league last year and said, what do you think of Bobby Hauck being back? And everyone was like, oh, man, Bobby's back. Bobby knows how to win at Montana. If Montana's got a guy that knows how to win, okay, look out. I mean, Coach Barnum was hilarious. He's like, the sheriff's back in town. Montana's going to be back right away. Yeah. And there was so much respect, even though Jeff Choate had never been a head coach, he had worked in so many different circles and come from the Chris Peterson tree. There was definitely an element of people being like, well, okay, Montana State's got a tough guy back in the saddle now too. What are we going to do? And I think people have a crazy amount of respect for Jay Hill at this point. I mean, like Coach Barnum said, the number one thing I respect about Jay Hill is that he doesn't think 7-3 is boring. He's willing to beat you 14-10 all day long. Yeah, he's 100% cool with not playing anybody else's game but his own game. And then you talk about Hawkins and just how off the cuff he is and just how outside the box he is and the massive success he had at Boise State. I just think that there's definitely some new godfathers in the league, some new dons in the league. Jerome Sowers kind of occupied that spot, even though NAU was never the power that maybe they should have been. They've been solid. But Jerome had just been there for so long. He was such an institution. He had so much reverence behind him. Everybody respected him so much. Mike Kramer was a similar way, even though Kramer's success ebbed and flowed. But now it seems as if there's a redefining of the hierarchy, and the guys that are at the Montana schools and the other guys that we mentioned are kind of the ones that are occupying those seats.
Well, and it's not really about tenure either. It's about presence.
Exactly.
And that is, and how much does that matter? Let's put it like this. I think you can be a successful coach or a failure as a coach or a bad coach, no matter what your personality type is. You can have quiet guys who are stoic, who are great coaches, and you have quiet guys where you're like, would you please say something because we need somebody to lead? Or you could have adamant over-the-top guys who are great fun and everybody rallies behind it, or guys who are just, off-putting. So how you are it doesn't matter so much, but how that translates, right?
Well, and I think that's the thing that's so appealing about Jay Hill is that Jay Hill, there's no doubt when you sit with him and talk with him how supremely confident he is, but it's not cocky and it's not arrogant. He's just supremely confident in every element of the way that he operates his program. And when he's just so cut and dry and honest about everything he'll tell you.
Yeah.
He'll straight up tell you the things that he thinks that they're bad at, and he'll straight up tell you, like you'll hear in this interview, we have the best special teams in the league. It's a reason why we win games. We take pride in it. There is no other option for us.
When you sit across from Jay Hill, too, it seems to me he's one of the quiet types.
Stoic is a good word.
Stoic to an extent. And when you sit across from him, he's serious, but he's not imposing. And yet, even without being, imposing or intimidating, he also commands respect from you, just in terms of the way that he is. And that's something you can't fake that, right? And I think that a lot of coaches, particularly maybe in football, actually in basketball too, there's a lot of bravado, and there's a lot of salesmanship. And some of that stuff is fine, and it doesn't, and not even, it doesn't mean that anybody's fake or, disingenuous or whatever, but it's rarer to find guys who are rooted enough to just be exactly who they are, whatever that is. And you don't see that often. You don't see it in life, frankly, that often, okay? It's not just about coaches or whatever. I think it just takes on you get the extremes in the coaches because they are the politicians, the fathers, the leaders of men, all of this stuff, the money makers, the fundraisers. And so there's a lot of different hats that you have to wear as a college coach. And so you have to be able to, play to whatever room that you are in. And that sort of tends to make a caricature out of you more than it does like this is just kind of who you are. You know what I mean? And so I do think it's interesting. But another thing, 2Tell Nuanez 102.9 ESPN Radio. Actually, let's do this. Let's hear from Jay Hill.
Mm-hmm.
You get an impression of the man as he's talking through this again. 2-time Big Sky Conference champions or co-champions. Been to the playoffs each of the last several seasons, including – were they in the Final Four 2 years ago?
They were a play away. They lost to James Madison in the quarterfinals on a field goal.
And this year as well, two tremendous teams, tremendous runs, and expected to be really good again. So here you go. A little less than 5 minutes, but you'll get an impression. Head coach of the Weber State Wildcats, Jay Hill.
Well, Coach, you come into this year, and you've built Weber into one of the powers of the conference year in and year out. What this year is going to be sort of the demarcation of what your team is?
Well, we got to continue to play great defense. That's been the key the last 3 years. Is we've probably been the top defense in the league. We got to take care of the football. Last year we learned that. We turned the ball over a lot in NAU, and it cost us the outright conference championship. And we turned it over in the main game, and it cost us the semifinals. And we had a good team, but you're not very good when you turn it over. So that cost us dearly. The games we took care of it, we could beat anybody. That's reality. Is I really felt that way, especially the way Constantine was playing late down the stretch. If we just took care of the ball, we could beat anybody in the country. And SEMO, in the second round of the playoffs, that was a phenomenal team that came into Weber State. They were dang good. They were athletic, they were big, they were physical, they had all the tools to be a contender, and we played phenomenal against them. And we took care of the ball, and then the next week you don't take care of the ball and you look like idiots against Maine. So that's kind of how the conference goes. If you take care of the ball, you got a chance to win it. If you don't, you're going to get killed.
It seems like we've been talking about the incremental steps of your program for the last couple of years. Learn how to win close, and then learn how to win, and then learn how to make the playoffs, and then chase a conference championship. Now here you guys are having a couple conference championships under your belts, a couple playoff appearances under your belts. So how do you then elevate it to the next step, and what is the next step for Weber State?
Well, recruiting has been a big part of that. We got to continue to get the best players in the league, which I think we showed that with the preseason all-conference team. We got good players. With that, we got to continue to abide by our plan to win, which is play great defense, take care of the ball. I mentioned that. And then the other thing, the next step, we got to make plays when they're there to be made. And we did not do that in the main game. We had opportunity after opportunity after opportunity to take that game and just jump out to a 2-score lead in the first half. And then it would have been hard against our defense last year for anybody to beat us with a 2-score lead. But we just didn't do it. And it was the same thing at James Madison the year before. There was plays to end that game to win it, and we didn't make it. That's the next step. We got to make those plays in those critical situations in the big games, in the really big games.
You talked about recruiting. Coulter and I said if you lined up all the players that come to this event, put them in all the same shirts so we didn't know who was who, we would still know, oh, those are the two Weber guys. They're just bigger and stronger than just about everybody else, it seems like. Where do you find these guys, and what does your program do to generate what are just, massively strong human beings?
Well, a lot of it's recruiting and knowing what you're looking for. We got good recruiters in this league that get it. I was lucky. When I was a young coach, I was around Ron McBride, who in my opinion is maybe the best recruiter ever. He knew what to look for. Big feet, big hands. He knew how to project. Like Iosu Opeta last year when he came here and everyone was saying how big he was. In high school, he was 6'3", 240 pounds, and not impressive, but we knew what he was going to grow into. Jonah Williams, when he joined us, was 240 pounds, and now he's 6'5", 280, and we're having a hard time keeping him under 280 because I don't want him getting too big. You just got to know what you're looking for and how they're going to grow and what they're going to grow into. And then you got to have one heck of an off-season program, which I think we do a dang good job of. We got a great strength coach, and that's part of the program.
You mentioned just continuing to play great defense, continuing to make plays when they're available. But you guys have done such a good job of owning the special teams aspect of the game. I know that that's something that you take a ton of pride in, but how important has that been to have one of the premier kickers in the league, one of the premier kick returners in the league, and have guys that can score you so many points on special teams?
Oh, that's huge. I was a special teams coordinator for 9 years at the University of Utah, and the 2 years prior to being a special teams coordinator, I sat in the room every night with Urban Meyer doing special teams scheming on our schemes and our techniques that we were going to use. And those things were so valuable to me as a young coach, and it instilled into me the importance of special teams. And we've been really good at them, the best in the league, in my opinion. And now we got to make a different transition because we lose Colton Swan, who went to the University of Utah, and he was a phenomenal special teams coordinator. So I need the next guys to step up, coach it the same way, get the players to buy into them and the schemes the way we've done. And I think our players get the importance of it. It's been huge for us.
So there you go, Jay Hill.
The last point that he made there, I think there's two different things I want to talk about here that are very interesting dynamics. And first of all, Jay Hill made the comment about we have to continue to recruit the best players in the league. And I think that Coach Hill does a better job of acknowledging how important and how crucial it can be to have the best players in the league at the positions that aren't necessarily the glory positions. Because Weber has had the best corners and safeties in the league. And those are positions that get some headlines. And they've had, but the rest of where they've had the best players, they've had some pretty good edge guys, but no premier, All-American Buck Buchanan winning type edge guys. But they've had some of the best interior defensive linemen that just muddy it up and let their linebackers go crazy. And that's why LeGrand Toye and Landon Stice were so productive last year, because you got 350-pound D tackle in Felipe Sitake. He was a second-team All-League guy. He had like 17 tackles because that's how impactful he was. Everybody in the league knew that it's not about the plays this guy makes. It's about the plays everybody else behind him makes because of how disruptive he is. But, Coach Hill, they're so good at recruiting the best guards in the league. But the most important and striking part where they have such a huge advantage is they've had the best kicker, one of the 2 or 3 best punters, and absolutely the best kick returner in the entire league. And Rashid Shaheed is probably the best kick returner in the entire country. Mm-hmm. And when you have those guys, it makes you such a different type of threat. You can get by with being dead last in the conference in offense because I think that they scored 9 or 10 non-offensive touchdowns a year ago. That's a huge boost. That's 1 a game.
Yeah.
So you can get by with the 17 points per game offense if you get 7 more from your defense or your special teams. And now all of a sudden you are beating teams 24-17, and that's their formula. It's like Coach Hill said: if we hold teams under 20, we're pretty darn good. We're pretty confident where we're at. The other thing that I thought was an interesting point, and I think that there's a distinct parallel there between Montana, is that Weber State has been so good on special teams because that's where Jay Hill made so much of his reputation when he was at Utah. And Colton Swan was Jay Hill's heir apparent. He was the guy that Jay put his arm around and taught him all he knows about special teams. Now Colton Swan, the special teams coordinator at Utah, has the job that Jay Hill used to have. And Colton Swan, I've interviewed him a couple times. He's an incredibly bright guy, really young, dynamic, incredible energy. But they've been so good on special teams, not only because of the talent of the guys that are their specialists, but because of the schemes. And a ton of that credit goes to Colton Swan. But there's one interesting dynamic to compare to Montana. I see it here. Bobby Hauck is very similar to Jay Hill in the fact that so much of his success as a young coach came as an FBS special teams coordinator. He took over a program as a young guy who's then made that program dominant, just like Bobby Hauck did his first tenure here, and that he found himself an heir apparent. And that's going to be such an interesting factor at Montana because Bobby Hauck has identified Shan Schillinger as that guy. And Coach Hauck has not really pulled off the reins of being the special teams guy in 25 years of his career.
Right.
I mean, he's been the special teams guy all through the 90s at FBS programs, his whole time here at Montana, and then he was the special teams guy at San Diego State most recently for Rocky Long. There's a lot of knowledge there. And if you can find an heir apparent, it can do so much for your program to have two voices in that element, especially when one of those guys is a young, dynamic guy, just like Shan Schillinger is.
It's so interesting because every coach will tell you how important special teams are, but not every coach has a history of coaching special teams. Like, I mean, we know about offensive guys, we know about defensive guys. Well, guess what? There's also straight special teams guys. And Bobby Hauck and Jay Hill are that. And there may be another guy in the league that's a head coach that is that, but it seems pretty unquestionable to me that those two guys, if you want to see special teams from a top-down perspective, that's where you look.
Jeff Choate's a special teams guy, too.
Yeah.
And this is actually a very interesting analysis as well, because I think that actually Montana State has been excellent on special teams with the exception of kicking, place kicking. And that has overshadowed it because they've had such a roller coaster at kicker from Luke Daly tearing his ACL to then Luke Daly getting in trouble and being suspended to then Gabe Peppinger, who was a Missoula kid who had to walk on there, but then all of a sudden was the starting kicker. And he has a good freshman year. He goes 9 of 13 on field goals, but they never really were confident to use him in anything more than maybe like a 38-yard field goal. They had to be inside the 20 basically to use him. And then they kind of lost confidence in him as a sophomore, more because of the coaching staff's perception than actually Peppinger's performance, because I actually thought he was pretty fine as a sophomore as well. But then they bring in Tristan Bailey, who was nails early, and he was the National Special Teams Player of the Week. He won him the Western Illinois game.
Yeah, it was like a 58-yard or something.
He hit a 58-yarder. He had another 47-yarder to give him the final go-ahead lead, and he hit a 35-yarder. I mean, he hit 3 field goals in that game. He was great. But then he kind of lost it by the end of the year, too. And so much of it is just the mental aspect of being a kicker and the way that stuff can just kind of go awry. But that's overshadowed then the fact that Jared Padmas has been, I mean, he hasn't allowed a return in like 2 years. They haven't had a significant punt return against them in 2 years because of Jared Padmas's rugby punting ability. And then, the other thing is that Kevin Cassis has either been an explosive play or a sure-handed guy, because that's their MO. If you don't have something you can break for 20+, just keep it safe because we're going to run this ball control offense anyways. But I think Cassis has been better as a punt returner than people give him credit for, too. It's just interesting that you talk about Weber State. Okay, Trey Tuttle's an All-American. Rashid Shaheed's an All-American. They're the best special teams in the league. And it's true. And it's also, I mean, Montana had that before, and I know they're working towards having that again. But I think it's interesting that Montana State has actually been really, really good on special teams. It's been a little bit overshadowed because of the one element that's so obvious when you're kicking for points has been so inconsistent.
It's Tutel Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio. Quick break. We'll come back with our Carolyn. She's going to come in studio. Chick who doesn't know about sports going to join us and tell us about sports. It's always fun when Carolyn comes around. But before that, we got a ton of stuff to give away today.
Every single segment. Free stuff.
Not quite every segment,
almost.
But many segments today. You're going to be getting something, and we're going to start with our good friends out of Shoto, Montana. Shout out. Shoto. Alpine Touch. Tell them about it.
That's right. We got the little 4 big mountain flavors with the little carrying case here. You got your all-purpose pepper blend, hickory smoked, and chili sublime. Chili sublime is really good with like guacamole.
Put it
on there, right on the guac.
I'm into that.
Delicious. You can take it to your friend's house. If I'm going to Gus's house, I got this little.
That's right.
Got this little carrying case. So if you give us a call right now, 329-1899. You can also find this online, alpinetouch.com. So go check that out if you want to order this for yourself, your friends. Good gift. But go.
Can we throw in a barbecue sauce?
We got a barbecue sauce as well. Yep. We'll get you barbecue sauce. Yep. Give us a call right now, 329-1899. First caller, give Reese your information. We need your phone number and your address because we're going to send this right to your front door. But give us a call right now, 329-1899. And we got the 4 Big Mountain Flavors travel pack as well as a Alpine Touch barbecue sauce. It's grilling season. It's the height of grilling season. Alpine Touch does it better than anybody else. Alpine Touch, Montana Special Spice.
Welcome to today's lottery drawing. And today's winning numbers are not yours, not yours, and another number that's not yours. And the final number is not yours.
When it comes to having money, don't rely on luck. Brew your own coffee at home instead of buying that latte. Brown bag it to work instead of ordering in. Go to feedthepig.org for more free ideas on how to save. Feedthepig.org. This message brought to you by the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants and the Ad Council.
We ate a lot of steaks before we came up with the Montana Club's Private Reserve Cut Angus. It's as good a steak as you're going to get. Our Private Reserve Cut Angus is specially cut for us. And with our custom seasoning, it has a flavor that's absolutely incomparable. We're confident that it will satisfy the most discriminating steak customer for an unrivaled steak experience. Real Montana, real food. The Montana Club on Brooks and North Reserve, Missoula.
Canyon River Golf Club is a must for any golfer in western Montana. Tucked away in a spectacular setting along the Clark Fork River in East Missoula, Canyon River offers one of Montana's best championship golf experiences. And Canyon River is happy to announce their new fleet of golf carts, which include the Shark Experience, an interactive GPS giving dynamic distances and touchscreen interaction to help you play your best. Plus, with Bluetooth, radio, and surround sound, you can enjoy yourself between holes too. Book online at CanyonRiverGolfClub.com. Missoula's best golf, Canyon River.
Les Schwab is proud to introduce 2 of our best tires ever, just in time for summer. There's our exclusive Reputation, a high-mileage premium passenger tire we believe has the quietest, most comfortable ride ever. Or our exceptionally quiet and smooth all-season traction tire, the Open Range AT. Get up to $150 instant rebate on 4 backcountry MT or AT tires or $50 on 4 road control passenger tires. Les Schwab Tires. Doing the right thing matters. Cannot be combined with other offers. Limited time. Terms and conditions apply. Details at leschwab.com.
On Russell, across from the fairgrounds.
More bedrooms, a big yard, better commute. Whatever your reason to buy a new home, it's the right reason. In a tough housing market, the smartest thing you can do is pre-qualify for a loan before you start looking. Farmers State Bank makes it easier than ever to start the loan process with online checklists, forms, and calculators. Your dream home is out there. Get started today at farmersebank.com. Farmers State Bank, an equal housing lender and member FDIC.
Hey folks, Ryan Tutel here, and I'm with Josh from the Advocates Injury Attorneys. Josh, if our listeners have been injured in an accident, how can you help?
We're here to help you after a car accident by negotiating with insurance companies, recovering lost wages if you have any, and even getting you into a rental car if you need one. Call us today for a free consultation, and we'll get started helping you right away.
If you need help, get a hold of the Advocates. Call Josh at 640-4444 or online at montanaadvocates.com. You deserve an advocate.
ESPN Missoula Sports Center.
Good afternoon, Ryan Tutel, Colton Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Sports Center. The Grizz football team fortified the interior of their offensive line Thursday, officially adding 3-star rated guard Moses Mallory to the squad. The 6'3", 295-pounder is ranked as the 8th best junior college guard in the country, according to 247 Sports. The transfer from Eastern Arizona College shows Montana over offers originally from West Virginia, which was reneged later, and then Weber State, Jacksonville State, North Alabama, Tennessee State, and Stephen F. Austin.
Whoa, that's yesterday's. Here's today's. Friday, UM also confirmed the addition of graduate transfer Ryder Rice, a Savage native who spent the last 4 years playing defensive end at Rocky Mountain College in Billings. Last season, the 6'6", 220-pounder earned NAIA All-American and Frontier All-Conference honors after leading the league with 12.5 sacks.
6'6", 220 is maybe get around that corner a little bit, bend at the hip. Montana senior linebacker Dante Olson has been added to the American Football Coaches Association 2019 All-State Good Works team. The award is given annually to college football players for the impact they make off the field. Olson is one of 137 student-athletes with inspiring stories of community service who were nominated by their respective institution. Jake Mayer of UC Davis is the other one from the Big Sky.
This ESPN Missoula Sports Center is brought to you by Aspen Sound.
Some people don't like to talk about it. That's Carolyn. It's Tutel Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio, broadcasting live from the Kurtz Polaris studios. Kurtz Polaris is at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula, Highway 83 in Sealy. And they are celebrating their 30th anniversary. That's right, 30 years Kurtz Polaris has been in business. And they're celebrating by offering you up to 30% off. That's right, 30% off MSRP on select parts and accessories with the purchase of any new Polaris off-road vehicle, Husqvarna and Beta dirt bike, or any Crest pontoon boat. Some restrictions apply. See Kurtz for details. Get to Kurtz Polaris in Missoula and Sealy all month for Kurt's 30-year anniversary sale. You want to find us on Twitter at Gus Tutel, at 1029 ESPN, and at Skyline Sports MT. That's where you go.
Hey there. 2 weeks in a row. Look at us getting the best segment on Tutel Nuanez delivered to you. A sports update from a chick who doesn't know about sports. Carolyn, thank you for being here again. You have a short list today, so that's good.
Short list.
Remember, Missoula Winery, the official sponsor of this segment now. Missoula Winery is open from Wednesday through Saturday. The tasting room, 2 to 7 p.m. Go check them out. They got $2 glasses of Tattoo Girl wine. That's a pretty screaming deal. It's really good wine. So go check them out there, out by the airport. Missoula Winery and Event Center. What a great place to enjoy an evening in the summer. Carolyn, what are you burning on?
Well, I don't know if any of you guys caught the Cubs game yesterday, but
I saw a little bit of it. I saw Matt Nagy throw out the first pitch, and he
also
threw a strike.
Oh, yes, he also threw out the P word.
There's a number of P words, I guess, as I Rolodex through my vocabulary. So what happened? What was he doing?
He was singing "Take Me Out to the Ball Game."
Okay, yeah, get up there. That's the big Cubs tradition.
Yes,
get on the mic.
The best
okay.
tradition.
Yes.
And he did not allegedly enunciate peanuts properly.
Oh, really?
I think it was purposefully.
Can we play this back?
Yes, please do.
Okay.
I'd like a vote from our listeners.
We'll play a portion of Nagy's rendition of "Take Me Out to the Ball Game," and you can be a judge for yourself and pay very close attention to the word peanuts, as it's said here.
Or what he said.
Take me out to the ball game. Take me out with the crowd. Buy me some peanuts and Cracker Jack.
Didn't sound like peanuts to me.
No, it sure didn't.
And hopefully he makes those same mistakes when he's trying to do calls in game for the Bears, and they end up with running plays when they're trying to get passing plays.
What do you mean, hopefully?
Yeah, I want the Bears to stink. That's what I want.
How dare you?
Oh, don't come in here with that. Canadian-born Bears fan. Oh,
I
my
grew up in
goodness.
Chicago.
I know. I'm a Cubs fan, too.
I loved Jim McMahon and Sweetness.
Wow.
What about the fridge? I have a shirt.
The refrigerator Perry.
I have a shirt from the year that they won the Super Bowl from the 85 Bears with like several of the like players on it, and then the depiction of William Perry is just a refrigerator with the number 72.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Did you like the Super Bowl Shuffle?
I loved the Super Bowl Shuffle, loved
stuff.
Ditka, loved the whole thing, but I was 5 and a child at that time.
Well, I was in 5th grade, sir.
Nah, I don't believe that.
It's true.
Maybe it was true, actually.
Yeah.
Walter Payton is so sweet. But Jim McMahon?
He wore those shades, and he had the attitude.
Poor Jim McMahon now. Have you seen him lately?
No.
No, he's better now, dude.
Oh, he's healing up?
They found a deal. They drained some fluid off the spine, and he's like a world better. So
I'm happy to
hear that.
about
that. Yes.
Yeah, because that was actually because Jim McMahon in 1985 was not cool, but Jim McMahon now I feel bad for him, so that's good. Good news.
First of all, in 1985, there was nobody cooler than Jim McMahon.
Right.
He may not have been the best quarterback, and by may not, I mean certainly wasn't. But there was nobody cooler with the headband and the sunglasses. Oh,
and he was on like all of the regional Chicagoland commercials for stuff. So it was like he was pimping himself out. It was good stuff.
Jim the McMahon. You get it?
Tease for a segment later on. The nature of the one-hit wonder of the 1985 Bears is amazing. Because when you think about the NFL is always 2 to 3 year windows where sometimes you lose in the Super Bowl like the Seahawks and then win, or or win and then lose. You can't have this 2, 3, sometimes 4 year window. That team was so good, and they only won one. They only played in one, which is crazy.
Well, only playing in one is a little bit surprising. They were so good, but also they were good for like 2 years maybe leading up to that season, and then the next season they were like middle of the road, and the next season they were a 4-win team, and Ditka was fired. Like that's the remark. The drop off is the stunner. The drop off, as well as the reverence that team is remembered with. People still talk about that one of the greatest teams of all time. Well, one of the greatest defenses, which it was. It was, but I don't know. I wonder if that team wasn't from Chicago, what people would think. I don't think it's about being from Chicago. I think it's all the stuff that went with it. Like it was the Super Bowl circus shuffle? Of personalities, and you get Ditka, Mongo, and who's the coordinator, the DC? Oh, Buddy Ryan. Ryan and Ditka just yelling at each other all the time. I'll coach my defense, you coach your offense, whatever it is. And then all the players, McMahon, everybody dancing around. So it's like it gets this place in pop culture even more than it does in football culture.
Which is why I remember it.
Full circle. What's next?
Okay, Carolyn, what else you got? Thank you for turning us on to taking me out to the ball game.
I want to take a moment and have a moment of appreciation for Steph Curry.
Great. Well needed.
I don't care about his basketball, but he is just the coolest husband and father and human.
What's he doing now? His wife's a bad dancer or something?
His wife did a little dance, and people were talking smack on Instagram or Twitter or whatever, and he just went off. And I just love that. He stands up for his woman, and I just feel like if a scandal hit this guy, I would be just shocked, in shock and awe.
I'm a big Steph Curry guy myself.
Same.
I watched Steph Curry. Did you see they played that Tahoe, the celebrity Tahoe golf tournament? And he put one into not just the gallery, but the stands that are holding the green room tent that was around the green. Went up there into the crowd and played the ball from the stairs and chipped it onto the green.
Of course he did.
Yeah, of course he did, because he is a good golfer.
Great golfer.
Good for Steph. All these people coming on, all the trolls and so forth. There's an interesting thing. I don't know, Coulter, what your age is in terms of relationship to what I'm about to say. Carolyn and I are on the trolls are the worst side of life. But there's a group of people at some certain age that find trolling just to be fun and funny, and they're into it, and they're into the back and forth because they think it's like a big kick and a hoot and a holler and all of that. But Steph Curry clearly isn't having it with with the trolls coming out for blood, which people always do when they see something. It's just stupid.
I know, but I just love that he says no. Don't mess with my woman.
There you go.
And I love how cute he is with his kids. I just think he's great. And I would literally be blown away if I heard something bad about him. So don't ever tell me anything bad.
We won't.
First of all, I hate the trolls. Never feed the trolls. Second of all, though, I think one thing that just makes me feel so strange about the world that we live in is that Steph Curry is, by all accounts, this awesome dude. He's just such a good guy. He's a great example of if you just work hard where you can get to. Because Steph Curry does not have these amazing athletic gifts. He has some of the greatest hand-eye coordination in all of the history of sports. But which
is something.
Well, sure, but he's you know what I'm saying. He's a 6'3", 165-pound child.
Yeah,
he's not this crazy gifted guy, and his skill has got him to the top. But also just the way he carries himself. His positive attitude. And what I'm getting at is it makes me so mad that there are so many people out there that don't like Steph Curry.
What?
Why
can't anyone not like him?
People don't like the mouthpiece. They think he's cocky. They think the way he shakes it when he's playing. And I'm just like, dude, just let it roll. Why can't we just like people?
There isn't one single basketball player that's ever played the game from your local YMCA to the NBA that if they haven't made a good play doesn't do something.
Exactly.
Okay?
Right. Well,
Great. This brings us all the way back to the U.S. women's national team. So let them celebrate, Gus.
Oh, my
I
gosh.
think that's within you need to be within reason. But, man, when I hit a three-pointer, I mean, you should see my moves.
Are you doing the worm out there,
I do
Buck?
the worm. I do whatever this is. The Cabbage Patch.
Very good.
The Running Man.
The Super Bowl Shuffle.
The Super Bowl Shuffle.
We got to get Carolyn out for a game. Carolyn, the chick who doesn't know sports, brought to us
by the Missoula Winery and Event Center. Missoula Winery and Event Center is open from 2 to 7, Wednesday through Saturday. That's their tasting room. But they also is a great place to host events, whether you got a birthday party, bachelorette party. There's a Magic Mike event out there once upon a time. The greatest ad in Missoula broadcasting history.
That's
Carolyn
right.
voiced it all about
sure
the Magic
did.
Mike. But if you want to go Missoula Winery, just go online. You can find contact information there to book your event. And if you want to go check out $2 glasses of Tattoo Girl wine, Missoula Winery and Event Center open 2 p.m. to 7 p.m. Wednesday through Saturday.
Let's go at 2.
Well, we missed 2 o'clock, didn't we?
I don't know. I
Quarter
mean,
to
you don't
5.
know where I was.
Well, that's a good point. It's a good point. You're
Sorry, I botched the address there, too. I didn't have it off the top of my head, but it is just Missoula Winery and Event Center.com. If you want to go check out, if you need to book an event, that's the best way to do it. You can find contact information
ton of
there.
space out there. They got a great
place.
location, great space for events and various things. Thanks to Carolyn for coming in, doing it. The chick who doesn't know about sports, doesn't know sports again. Hey, we're not giving away something in every segment, but so far we're 2 for 2.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, gave away some Alpine Touch in the last segment. Today, how about Board of Missoula? Missoula's original board shop. Surfboards, probably. Snowboards, definitely. Skateboards, absolutely. Board of Missoula downtown, $25 right now. 329-1899, 329-1899. You call right now, caller number 2 gets a $25 gift card to the Board of Missoula. Coulter on the hip strip. Tell them about it a little bit.
30th anniversary of the
Yes.
Board of Missoula. That's impressive. I feel like there's a lot of 30th anniversaries going around here. Kurt's Polaris 30th
That's right.
anniversary too.
My 30th anniversary of my marriage is coming up this month.
I love it. Board of Missoula, they got all sorts of stuff. You obviously know they're their go-to spot for snowboarding gear, bindings, all that kind of stuff. Also a great place to get your board all fixed up with bearings and things like that. But they also have a ton of new merchandise as well. Some slick hats, some sweet shoes, a bunch of cool T-shirts, bunch of cool sunglasses. I've got myself a couple cool pairs of sunglasses there. So right there on the hip strip, just down the way from the Roxy, go check them out. Board of Missoula.
Alpine Touch has been providing you with the distinct seasonings you know and love for decades. Now, Alpine Touch has something to help you unleash the freshness of all the delicious flavors you need to spice up any meal. Check out Alpine Touch's new coarse grinds, unleashing the fresh taste of the garlic pepper or all-purpose seasonings to please any nose or taste bud. Coarse grinds can be purchased by the pound at retail locations around the state or at alpinetouch.com. Use the code ESPN10 at checkout to get 10% off any online order. Alpine Touch, Montana's special spice.
Florence Coffee Company wants to thank you, our customers, for voting us the Triple Crown in Missoula this year. You awarded us Best Barista, Best Coffee, and Best Coffee Hut. We work hard to serve superior products with all natural ingredients, provide great customer service, and offer a loyalty program like no other. We are a Montana family-owned and operated company, and we look forward to serving you throughout our native western Montana.
Under the big sky, Florence Coffee Company.
Hey folks, Ryan Tutel here, and I'm with Josh of the Advocates Injury Attorneys. Josh, what are people left dealing with after an accident?
Well, quite a few things, actually. We see people that are in pain, they still need to get to work, they need to raise their kids, and now they have to take time to go see doctors and other healthcare providers. They're frustrated with working with the insurance companies and getting the runaround. We'll take on the burden of dealing with the insurance companies so you can get the best settlement possible and get back to your life.
Find your advocate online at montanaadvocates.com. There are a lot of lawyers. You deserve an advocate. Take summer by storm with a new Polaris off-road vehicle. During the summer sales event, rebates go as high as $2,000 and financing is as low as 3.99%. Live your life wide open in a high-performance RZR. Tackle anything from mountains to mud holes on our legendary Sportsman ATV. Get more done with a hard-working Ranger or take on any task or trail in a versatile Polaris General. Whatever you're looking for, now is the time to take your pick from the off-road's best-selling lineup. See Polaris.com or your Polaris dealer for rebates up to $2,000 and financing as low as 3.99% APR for 36 months during the Polaris Summer Sales Event at Kurtz Polaris, 2904 West Broadway in Missoula and Highway 83 in Sealy. July is Kurtz Polaris' 30th birthday, and they are celebrating with unprecedented savings on select parts and accessories with the purchase of a new Polaris off-road vehicle, Beta or Husqvarna dirt bike, or any of their new line of Crest pontoon boats. Go to Kurtz Polaris for details. Offers valid in U.S. through 7/23/19 on new 2015 through 2019 vehicles. Subject to credit approval. Offers vary by model. See dealer for details. Always wear a helmet. Never drink and ride.
You're a big league fan. You expect big league service. At the Desperado, you get exactly that. With 35 flat screens, ice-cold brews on tap, and Missoula's #1 wings, you're free to sit back and enjoy every pitch. This summer, make the Desperado your baseball home away from home. Cool off after work, relax on the weekends, soak in some great food and drinks, and watch your team make yet another great push for October. And hey, if yours can't do it, there's plenty of other teams and fun to go around at the Desperado Sports Tavern on South Russell across from the Y.
Tutel and Nuanez on 102.9 ESPN Radio for Missoula. Find Tutel and Nuanez on the World Wide Web at 1029ESPN.com, Facebook/ESPN Missoula. And for the best Big Sky coverage in the state of Montana, go to SkylineSportsMT.com. Now from the Kurtz Polaris studio, here is Ryan Tutel and Colter Nuanez.
What a day at the Open. What a day at the Open. Usually day two, not that big. I mean, it's a big day. Every day at a major is a big day, but usually Friday's not the day where you're like, wow. But today it was, and I'll tell you why, and we'll get into some of what might come up this weekend in Ireland. It's Tutel Nuanez. We're broadcasting from the Kurtz Polaris studios. Kurtz Polaris is at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula, Highway 83 in Sealy, and they are celebrating their 30th anniversary. That's right, 30 years they've been in business. And they are celebrating by offering you 30% off. 30% off MSRP on select parts and accessories with the purchase of any new Polaris off-road vehicle, Husqvarna or Beta dirt bike, or any Crest pontoon boat. Some restrictions apply. See Kurtz for details. Get to Kurtz Polaris in Missoula and Sealy all month long. Okay? All month long. You got, 12 more days. Month of July, you got to get in there and take advantage of this sale. A bunch of new 2020 stuff about to roll out, too, at Kurtz Polaris. Colter, I must say, I don't get into this stuff the way I got into it today. Now, I love golf, you know that, and I love the majors in particular, and I watch, I watch it, but I'm not really a sit-down and watch the tournament guy.
Before Sunday.
Yeah, before Sunday, I definitely want to check it out. At least try and watch the back nine. You know what I mean? But today, Rory McIlroy went out and shot a 78 yesterday, 7 over. And he came out today, and as the day developed, and he's in the late group, the cut line looked like it was going to be around +1. So he's going to have to come out and shoot a 7 under 64 to get to +1. And a tall task, to be sure. But a guy with his talent is capable of it. And he came out, shot 2 under on the front 9, 2 birdies and 7 pars, and then went birdie, birdie, birdie on 10, 11, and 12, and was 5 under with, count them up, 6 to play. Needed to go 2 under in the last 6 to get to that 1 under. A pretty easy par 3. All things like 170-yard par 3 today. Misses the green. Chips it to, 18 feet and misses the putt. Bogeys 13. And now he's 3 out. He's actually 4 over for the tournament. Needs to go 3 under on the final 5. With the hardest hole in the course, which had given up, 5 birdies on the day today. Birdies it. Bounces back, so he goes 3 birdies, bogey, and then another birdie on the hardest hole to get back to where he only needs to. I don't recall if he birdied also 15 or 16, but one of those 2 he also birdies. And comes into 17 and 18 at 2 over, needing a birdie. Doesn't get it at 17. Hits it up at 18, which is it's a 467-yard par 4. He's about 170 out on his approach shot. And the pin is on the extreme left side. So the safe play is kind of dead center of the green. Leave it up there right of the pin. Make sure you're on. But knowing that he needs a birdie, he takes dead aim. Doesn't miss by much, but misses by enough that the thing just rolls out off the side of the green and has to chip to get it in. Now, the chip to make the chip is, the commentators are saying on TV is a 1 in 50 to make it. I think it's a lot less than that. Of course, I'm no good, so maybe it is 1 in 50 for those guys. But effectively, on his approach shot, it kind of sealed his fate of not making the weekend. By the way, he did not make the chip, and he is not playing this weekend. But as he walked up there, two things struck me. First of all, he received a round of applause that became a standing ovation as he walked up 18 and to the green, playing in an Open Championship in not just Ireland but Northern Ireland, his home country. Has to be the best golfer ever from Northern Ireland.
Oh, certainly.
Padraig Harrington, I don't know if he's from Northern Ireland or just from Ireland, but he's a multi-time major champion as well. But, Rory's already – does he have 4 in the bag? 5.
He's got 5.
And
Rory's one of the all-time greatest golfers ever already.
Already. So, anyway, and to see the respect and the appreciation that the home country – if we know one thing about the Irish, right, they take care of their own, don't they? Is it 4?
4, yeah.
Okay,
he's
4.
never won the Masters. He's won 2 PGA championships, a U.S. Open, and one Open championship.
Yeah. And, by the way, his last 5 Open championships, I think he's got a 2nd, a 3rd, and a 5th in addition to the win.
Hasn't won a major in 5 years, which is crazy considering he's only 30.
Well,
he got 4 under his belt by the time he's 25.
He went on that unbelievable run where he won 3 in 5 or 6, I think. He
won the PGA to end 2012, and then won the Open, and he won the Open and another PGA
the following season.
2 seasons later.
Yeah, okay. Or to see, this little isle out there in the North Atlantic being on the global stage and the biggest stage that the sport has to offer when it comes to a major. And for their guy who didn't, it was so interesting because he failed on the first. He just awfully had a quad. He had a triple and a double in one round. Short of David Duval, it was one of the worst rounds of the day, particularly if you consider who it is that did it. And certainly one of the worst rounds of his career. And I think it's got to be somewhat obviously disappointing, but also embarrassing. When you go out there at your home track, not his home track per se, but in your home country and all that, and have that performance, it's just terrible. And for him to bounce back and show the fight that he showed, and here's what I saw out of Rory McIlroy today. Everybody wants to play well. There's a lot of guys, this is why you're a professional golfer, that can play well, but there's very, very few people on earth that can decide today I'm going to go out and I'm going to do this. And Rory McIlroy had a focus and a mental edge. And look, if you don't play golf, if you don't watch golf, this all sounds stupid, but it was true today. He went out and decided today, I'm making a run at this. I got to get to 7 under, and I'm going to go, and I can do it, and I'm going to go make this happen. And for him to, very few guys can dig in and make the absolute shot when they have to make it, and not to mention do it repeatedly. And he did, and he still came up short. But for him to make the run at it that he did was totally impressive to me. And for him, you don't usually get home. That's one thing that golf doesn't have often, right? You have fan favorites and all that, but you don't have home field advantage. There's not home and away in golf.
Right.
Well, there was home in golf today. And so that to me was stirring, and I enjoyed it very much. And I'm very disappointed that Rory is not going to be there this weekend. That said, welcome Shane Lowry to the equation from Ireland, not North Ireland, but from Ireland, leading this tournament at 10 under, gave 2 back towards the end, which makes me worry because he definitely felt the fact that he was in the lead at the Open Championship in Ireland, gave a couple back on the last 4 holes, but played really well. He and J.B. Holmes tied at 8 under. But now Coulter, I'm pumped up because they're at 8 under. There's 2 other guys. I got to look who they are at 7 under. Then you got Justin Rose amongst a couple others at 6 under. You got Jordan Spieth and Brooks Koepka with a group at 5. Patrick Reed at 4, and then Dustin Johnson and Ricky Fowler amongst another pretty big group at 3 under. Okay, they're all within 5 strokes of the lead. And with J.B. Holmes and Shane Lowry there at 8 under, it's not exactly the most intimidating leaders, if I can say so delicately. You know, where you expect, well, they're just gonna take this thing over and not look back. I think that this has, you know, all of the intrigue and interest all over it, especially with Jordan Spieth, who has been terrible at times leading into this, and he's such a pendulum when it comes to his sort of mental, emotional side. He dialed in, shot 4 under today, 1 under yesterday, and is, you know, and looks like the type of guy. He's the type of guy who can do what Rory did when he needs it. He can dig in and go get it. He can also blow it in the most amazing ways as well. So it's going to be very exciting. I have my pick for who I think is going to win this whole thing going in the weekend. I'd be interested to hear yours.
Well, first of all, I want to talk about Spieth for just a brief moment, because Kevin Van Valkenburg, University of Montana alum, Missoula native, who's one of the senior golf writers for ESPN.
Been on this very show, in fact, talking about Rory McIlroy.
Yeah, Van Valkenburg's great, but he had some Twitter coverage yesterday where he was talking about how those who can watch golf with a nuanced enough eye would be the first to tell you that Jordan Spieth is putting better than he's ever putted before. And to say that about a guy that is one of the great heat streak putters in the history of the PGA Tour. I mean, when Jordan Spieth's putter gets hot, he gets it ridiculous. I mean, he can, if it's on the green, it's in the mix for him to make the putt. 50 footers, let's go. I mean, it is a realistic thing for him when he's hot. And today, that stretch where he went birdie, eagle, birdie, he made a 25-footer, a 28-footer, a 29-footer, and a 31-footer. So he's just put it up there. Put her up there, and he's going to make it. He's going to one-putt that thing. The thing that's so crazy, it's like Van Valkenburg was saying, somewhere along the lines, he almost completely lost the ability to hit the ball off the face of the club. He's towing it and hitting it off the inside all the time, which is crazy because he's not an exceptionally long hitter. His whole game is the control aspect and then giving himself a chance. Just get it on the green, because if you get it on the green, he has such a weapon in his hand when he has his putter. But he, coming into this tournament, this is astounding. Now, there's only about 150 guys on the PGA Tour each year. And there's guys that are kind of ebbing and flowing. They're not necessarily playing the whole tour or whatever.
Two-way contract guys.
Right. But Spieth entered this tournament 189th in the world in driving accuracy and 186th in greens and regulation. So that means he's like literally the worst guy on tour, which is crazy to think about. That said, he was, and even with his good round today and the fact that he's 5 under and he's in the mix right now, he still only hit 39% of his fairways, which is like half of what he was hitting when he was playing at his highest level. If he can get the action in, his putter is red hot, and that could be the thing that boosts him and makes a difference this weekend.
He, in addition to, this is weird because he has had such a, it's fairly unique. I mean, Jordan Spieth's swing is distinct, but it's a metronome, man. It's straight back, it's straight through. It always gets weird off the tee because it's a bigger club and all that, but he is not a long ball hitter. Never has been. It's been the accuracy that's been the thing, and it hasn't even been the ball striking for Jordan Spieth. It certainly has been his short game, and I would include in his elite putting when it's working for him some unbelievable chipping. I mean, he's great out of the sand. He's great around the greens in general. But even though he has been always one of the shortest off the tee on tour, he has also at least been relatively accurate. But as one commentator put it today, to be short and crooked is a recipe for disaster, and he has been exactly that. And that's why it's miraculous that he's 5 under. And you're right. Well, if you're going to just go out there and drain every 25 to 35 footer that you see, you're going to be in business. Maybe make it a little easier on yourself and just leave some 15 footers every once in a while. And especially in a link style, man, you get out there and when we golf here in the state of Montana, a lot of golf courses in Montana are just cut out of the forest. You know what I mean? You got trees everywhere, and that's kind of the thing that you deal with. And it's just difficult to understand how much harder it is to miss the green when you're in the hay. when you're in a link style course and it's just best case scenario, really long grass, worst case scenario, flat unplayable. I mean, in some spots, it's just flat unplayable. And you know what? The trees almost always, especially when you're as good as these guys, will give you some kind of out. Some kind of out. Well, often it's an out where you can actually go and take a rip at it and try and put it on the green. And even if not, even if you're just chipping out of the trees, you're going to gain 100 yards. You're going to gain 150 yards. I'm seeing guys. I saw Gary Woodward today rip it. The biggest swing you could ever see, hurt his wrist doing the whole thing. It went 50 feet back into the fairway, and it was all he could do just to get it out of where it was sitting. So if you are not accurate on a course like this, you are in huge trouble. And certainly, listen, if Jordan Spieth isn't hitting better than 36% fairways, he's not winning this tournament. But he is the type of guy who could all of a sudden show up tomorrow and do it, right? And go and hit 75% of them and stay roasty with that flat stick. And all of a sudden, everybody goes, well, Jordan's back.
He's so good with the putter that if he hits 75% of greens, that means he'll probably birdie about 50 to 60% of the holes that he hits the green on. So then all of a sudden you give yourself 10 to 12 birdie chances a round, and that's how you win these things.
Of which you make 6 or 7,
right?
And then you got to stay away from the triple bogey,
and that's
which
how
he will do from time to time.
Right, but then that's how he's gone on some of these runs where we've seen him make 6 or 7 birdies in a row. And it's just so much about accuracy. It's fascinating just to think how unbelievable he was a couple years ago, and how he was the number 1 player in the world when he was 24 years old.
That's right.
23 years old.
Finished
and
second at the Masters.
Now he's 38, which is nothing to sneeze at, but it's nowhere near what he should be considering how talented he is.
Okay, so who you got going into this weekend? You got
Brooks Koepka.
You got Brooks?
How can you not?
He's 5 under. He's 3
the thing
back.
Here's the thing. Tiger was so intimidating with the way he walks and his snarl and how far he can hit it. But he's also just kind of like this robotic guy, and when you're listening to him talk, you're like, you might be intimidated by him, but you more just resent him because you're just like, Tiger at it again. I think Koepka is the most intimidating guy in the history of the PGA Tour because he truly doesn't care. There's all the rest of these guys are worried about, okay, how do I stay locked in? How do I not melt down? How do I not beat myself? And Koepka's just like, I'm playing my weekend round of golf. I'm just going to sit out here and let all these other guys just melt down while I just sit here and go 68, 68, 68, 68.
Okay, but hometown Shane Lowry, Justin Rose, one of the top 5 players in the world, is a stroke ahead. Jordan Spieth tied. And then you got Dustin Johnson and Patrick Reed and Ricky Fowler breathing, and you still got him.
Still got Koepka.
You know who I got? Brooks Koepka. Because I'm not a moron. I mean, could anybody win this? Sure. But Brooks Koepka is the guy right here, right now. He's got everybody where he wants them. And now we're all playing in the same weather conditions. Like, the only way to me that Brooks Koepka falls out of favoritism, and I say that specifically, I'm not guaranteeing anything like that, but the only way that he isn't the guy who you pick going into Saturday is if he got the short end of the weather stick. Well, guess what? No one got the short end of the weather stick happily at this event. Guys that played bad. Guys that played good, and the scores reflect that. So I got Brooksy headed into Saturday and Sunday. Talk to me at 5 p.m. Oh, no, 11 a.m., right? Probably on Sunday when they wrap this thing up from over there in Ireland with the time change. All right. People who are not golfing, they're like, move on. Okay, how about we move on to the NFL? How does that sound? Top 5 wide receiver duos according to the NFL.com. Some of them are right. Some of them are wrong. We'll tell you who should, in fact, be there right after this. Coulter, if you're traveling around the state of Montana, you need a place to stay. Great place to stay in Missoula is the Wingate by Wyndham Hotel, conveniently located near the airport. Got great rates for business travelers, great stuff for family, friends, an outstanding environment all the way around.
Wingate by Wyndham is a hotel that truly offers something for everybody. Wingate has an awesome water park with a sweet water slide for families, groups, and birthday parties. They also have terrific business travel rates, large meeting spaces for you and your clients, and one of the best rewards programs you'll find anywhere. Just down the road from Missoula Airport, the location is quiet and convenient. The parking is ample and free for guests, and the staff genuinely cares about taking care of those guests. Let the Wingate by Wyndham make you feel at home in Missoula, even when you're not.
Montana's first and only indoor urban axe throwing facility is open and ready for you to get your axe down here. Lumberjacks Throwing Company, located kitty corner to Draftworks Brewing, is the perfect spot for dates, team building, bachelor parties, or just to blow off some steam after work. Their axe coaches are here to teach you the safety and technique of axe throwing and to get you sticking the axe in no time. Check them out on Facebook or at lumberjacksthrowingcompany.com to book your experience today. Get your axe down here.
Les Schwab is proud to introduce two of our best tires ever, just in time for summer. There's our exclusive Reputation, a high-mileage premium passenger tire we believe has the quietest, most comfortable ride ever. Or our exceptionally quiet and smooth all-season traction tire, the Open Range AT. Get up to $150 instant rebate on 4 backcountry MT or AT tires or $50 on 4 road control passenger tires. Les Schwab Tires. Doing the right thing matters. Cannot be combined with other offers. Limited time. Terms and conditions apply. Details at leschwab.com.
On Russell, across from the fairgrounds.
In Western Montana, we know shopping local matters. And you may think you'd pay more for the quality and customer service that comes with it, but not at Selway Armory. Selway Armory is locally owned with knowledgeable specialists that can answer your questions. In addition to the expertise, though, Selway Armory also has a bigger selection and lower prices than the box stores. When you're in the market for firearms and accessories, save money with the experts at Selway Armory. Selway Armory, 2825 Stockyard Road, Unit E6, and online at selwayarmory.com.
No matter how far you may go, there's always one just down the road. Town Pump, ooh, pump it up, pump it up.
There's lots of fun to be had this summer. Get your wings at Town Pump with Red Bull Energy 12-ounce, 3 for only $7. Be refreshed and delighted anytime with any size fountain drink for just $1. Town Pump is right down the road. What are you waiting for?
Town Pump, right down the road. Pump it up, oh yeah.
This is Mike Nugent with Berkshire Hathaway Home Services. Berkshire Hathaway provides Western Montana with full-time real estate professionals for you whenever you need us. Our reputation as the state's most knowledgeable and available real estate group has helped build unmatched trust in the Garden City and statewide. If you have been thinking of making a real estate move in the short or long term, give me a call. No pressure, no expectations. Just professional opinions and service at whatever pace you are comfortable with. Give me, Mike Nugent, a call today, 531-1802. And remember, every question is good to ask.
Hey folks, Ryan Tutel here with Josh from The Advocates. If you've been in a car accident and need help dealing with the insurance company, you should give The Advocates a call.
It doesn't cost anything at all to call, and I'd be happy to talk with you about your situation. You don't want to have to be dealing with contacting the insurance companies and setting up your claim. We can do that for you from start to finish. We'll take the hassle out of the process so you can just focus on getting better.
There you go, folks. If you've been injured in an accident, give Josh a call, 640-4444, or online at montanaadvocates.com. There are a lot of lawyers, but you deserve an advocate.
ESPN Radio for Western Montana, KKVU HD3 Stevensville, and 102.9 FM on K275BS Missoula. ESPN Missoula Sports Center.
Hey, how are you? Ryan Tutel, Colter Nuanez. The Grizz football team fortified the interior of their offensive line Thursday, officially adding 3-star rated guard Moses Malone to the squad. Moses Mallory. Excuse me. Let me get my Moses.
I mean, goodness gracious. If Moses Malone was coming to play for the Grizz, I think they'd probably go back to the NCAA tournament.
Okay, Moses wrote the first 5 books of the Bible, went to the NBA Hall of Fame, and is now playing guard for the University of Montana. The 6'3", 295-pounder is ranked as the 8th best junior guard in the country, according to 247 Sports. He transferred from Eastern Arizona JC. Chose Montana after his offer from West Virginia was recanted following a coaching change. He also had offers from Weber State, Jacksonville State, North Alabama, Tennessee State, and Stephen F. Austin.
Moses Malone, one of the most underrated players in the history of the NBA.
Underrated.
Friday, UM also confirmed the addition of graduate transfer Ryder Rice. He's a Savage, Montana native. Spent the last 4 years at Rocky Mountain College in Billings. 6'6", 220-pounder, led the Frontier Conference with 12.5 sacks a year ago.
Savages bat for the New York Yankees. Montana's senior linebacker Dante Olson has been added to the American Football Coaches Association 2019 All-State Good Works team. The award is given annually to college football players who make good impact off the field.
This ESPN Missoula Sports Center is brought to you by Aspen Sound.
A little late, but we made it. Hour number 2. What is up? Hope you're having a great day. Thanks for being with us. Broadcasting live from the Kurtz Polaris studios. Kurtz Polaris, 2904 West Broadway in Missoula, Highway 83 in Sealy, now celebrating their 30th anniversary. That's right, 30 years. And they're doing it by giving you 30% off MSRP on select parts and accessories with the purchase of any new Polaris off-road vehicle, Husqvarna or Beta dirt bike, or any Crest pontoon boat. Tis the season for some pontoon boating, if I don't say so myself. Some restrictions apply. See Kurtz for details. Get to Kurtz Polaris all month for their 30-year anniversary sale. If you missed anything in the first hour, guess what? Podcast, people. It's up there. Reese is working hard at that thing. Reward his efforts by listening. Podcast available thanks to the Wingate by Wyndham Hotel on all your favorite podcast platforms. You want to call us? Do it. 329-1899. We got another giveaway. 6-pack and a sandwich coming up this hour from Warden's Market. 329-1899, the number when we ask you for that. All guests join us via the Rangich Brothers RV phone line. If you want to listen to the stream, you can do that as well. 1029ESPN.com. The stream brought to us by Opportunity Bank, your local bank, your opportunity.
I'm so sore, man. I haven't been this sore in a really long time.
You are moving slowly. Now, I always move slowly. You usually move slowly, but sometimes you move with a little bit of spring in your step. That is nowhere to be found.
Yeah, I did. As everybody knows, I've been doing these sweat cycle classes down at the sweatshop. On Thursdays, I do this class called Drench. And you were teasing me before I went to my first Drench, saying, I don't know if Tatanka can go in there and throw it around, drench the whole dungeon facility.
You've been in Drench, and usually I just call it driving. Like riding shotgun, and it's Drench.
So I was a little worried. I was like, okay, what's the proximity to the other people? Like, how much am I wallowing in my own
corner and
self?
Yeah.
But this last one was just whipped me, man. I did have to go to my own corner by myself. I couldn't play well with others because I was just sweating so much. But these classes are super cool. They're super good. I only got a chance to make it to one this week because of my face. I had to take. They said no physical activity for a week, so I let it roll all the way up until yesterday, and then went and hit the Drench. But go check them out because it's really good stuff. It's helped fix my knee. It's helped fix my hip. My back doesn't hurt anymore.
Feeling better.
It's great, just core strength stuff. I was always a big weightlifter, just repping it out, trying to get big, and then all of a sudden you turn 30 and you're like, well, I don't know, I don't think that's necessarily necessary anymore. And it's been great, man. Lost a bunch of weight, and it's
trying to go the other direction.
Yeah, it's good. It feels good. And if you need a new workout, the best part about it is that these things are like 40 minutes long, 45 minutes. Like, I was there at noon, I was out by 12:45, showered to my lunch meeting, boom, you're ready to roll. And it's downtown, so a lot of times if you have a meeting downtown, you hit one real quick, go before it. So I did yesterday. It's great. So go check them out. Sweatshop, corner of Broadway and Higgins.
Very good. You do look good.
I'm just trying to keep up with my co-host.
Yeah.
What color would you say that shirt was? By the way, I got a late night text probably a week ago when you said my shirt was like coral green and it was clearly periwinkle blue. Got a text from a loyal viewer that said it was undoubtedly like North Carolina blue.
Yeah, which is a million miles from periwinkle blue. Have you ever watched Fight Club? Periwinkle blue looks like our Town Cup mugs.
Regardless of whatever you want to say, my shirt was baby blue. There was no green in it. It was blue.
First of all blue, unless it's dead blue, has a hue of green in it, unless you're headed the other direction into the purple scale. Second of all, particularly light blues got some green in there, and that certainly had green in it. This is a seafoam green, this shirt here. This looks like your grandmother's hose, this shirt that I got on. Remember those hoses? They're like all this color. It's like a Band-Aid. You know what? Here's the thing I know about Band-Aids. This drives me crazy because people come in all colors, man, all shades, okay? You got some very dark folks. You got some very light folks. You got some mid-range people and everything in between. Band-Aids, there is no human being that color. Not one. I mean, they haven't found one person on the face of the earth where that blends in. That sickly looking pinkish color that they do. There's some tan Band-Aids, but like the clothish backed ones, it's in like where you're like, oh, nobody will notice this on you. I mean, it's more notable than some facial tattoos that I've seen. Some of that weird looking Band-Aid color.
This days like this when I wish Tommy was here. What do you think Tommy's doing right now? How many dead presidents has Tommy put in the Keno machine already?
No. Tommy has not landed in Vegas. Oh, maybe he
he has. I dropped him off at 1:30. The flight their flight was at 2. So
Tommy's on his way to Vegas, probably in Vegas.
Yep.
And if he's in Vegas, I mean he's 500 in. First machine, right?
Oh man, I was laughing so hard because he was like, because last time we went, Tommy hit the jackpot twice.
Yeah,
and so he's rolling around with
he's feeling
a lot of dead presidents in his pocket, and he was like, I'm nervous, man. He's like, because I've never gotten as lucky as I got last time. He goes, so I'm nervous that this is going to be the time where you
pay it.
They take it all back, and I was like, well, just don't. Like, if you get to the point where you're down 500, like, that's good. I told his girlfriend, I said, hey, he is on a leash. You cannot let this guy put $3,500 in the Keno machines.
Well, here's the thing is, he came in yesterday. He's like, I'm out tomorrow. I'm out Monday. So don't call me. I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, I found a flight deal to Vegas. Now, Tommy goes to Vegas no less than 4 and sometimes as many as 6-7 times a year.
Yeah, he loves it.
Goes down there all the time. And we're not talking about we're talking about family vacation style.
Yeah, he's
in the whole thing.
Yeah, he's a Fremont Street guy. He's not necessarily going to the clubs on the Strip. He's just going to the Fremont and eating some good steak.
But he's got all of these hookups. He's got a hookup where he gets 3 free hotel nights a month at the hotel he's going to.
Yep.
And so he's doing the all-in cost of this trip, food aside, is like. It's like $100.
Yeah, I think
he's into it.
He told me he got plane tickets for like $42.
4-day vacation in Vegas. So, but here's why Vegas is Vegas, because you can't do that anywhere else on earth. Why can't you do it in Vegas? Because now you go, well, I'm already ahead. I'm playing with house money. Bang, roulette table. Bang, blackjack. Bang, the one-armed bandits. And I know that he tries to find all these old things. He's got all this. Here's what I know. Okay, from the day one of gambling to the present. It's built for you not to win. That's why they can have all these gaudy monstrosities in the middle of the desert, right? Because people are walking away without the money they came with. So this is my, tale of caution on Vegas. I'm not a big Vegas guy. It's okay. I can do it for a day, sit down at the book, watch a game, put $10 down. That's it. So I'm not doing this, okay? Overly cautious, maybe, not destitute also. So that's pretty good. So I don't know. I wish him the best. I think he's going to come back. I think it's going to be a much more expensive trip than what he's put down to actually sit there and stay.
That's
always
my
is. Impression.
It always is.
I mean, he says he came back, up $4,000 or whatever last trip, but I know that ain't true because I saw what the two of you ate. I mean, there's $1,000 in restaurant food that the two of you knocked out in 3 days.
I sent my brother pictures of our meals for like 3 days in a row because Tommy was he was taking it to the absolute max. This was a Food Network show. I mean, we're going to diners, dives, and drive-ins, and we're going to. I mean, he's every famous place you could think of. We're hitting it up. So I sent my brother probably 3 different meals over the span of 3 days. And he's like, bro, where are you getting this flow at?
Mm-hmm.
Where are you getting this money? And I was like, dude, there's no way I'd be eating this $100 steak if my main guy over here didn't hit the jackpot.
Wasn't the winner.
Yeah.
And that's why Vegas always wins, because even when the casino loses, the restaurant comes
But
out.
It's way more fulfilling when you spend, like when you win the money and then spend it on doing fun stuff. Like we went to this really nice restaurant.
Don't win it and then lose it back.
Right. Winning it and losing it back is so dumb. Like when you got to go win it and then when you went and sat like 4th row at Penn and Teller, that was so cool. Like it was so fun.
You know what I'm going to do You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to download an E-Trade app. And if I win $1,000, I'm going straight to the bank, deposit, and boom, I'm going to try my luck with, I'm going to see if I can buy 1/1,000,000th of 1 share of a Berkshire Hathaway stock. See if I can do that.
I love it.
That's why you got to go to Sweat Cycle, because of your 1 week of size that you ate in Vegas with Tommy.
This is the truth. Gosh, I just finally worked it all off, about 20 pounds, 5 days.
Jeez,
it's amazing. Let's get out and come back and do the best wide receiver duos in the NFL and take a little time, huh?
Okay.
Top.
Montana's first and only indoor urban axe throwing facility is open and ready for you to get your axe down here. Lumberjacks Throwing Company, located kitty corner to Draftworks Brewing, is the perfect spot for dates, team building, bachelor parties, or just to blow off some steam after work. Their axe coaches are here to teach you the safety and technique of axe throwing and to get you sticking the axe in no time. Check them out on Facebook or at lumberjacksthrowingcompany.com to book your experience today. Get your axe down here.
Canyon River Golf Club is a must for any golfer in western Montana. Tucked away in a spectacular setting along the Clark Fork River in East Missoula, Canyon River offers one of Montana's best championship golf experiences. And Canyon River is happy to announce their new fleet of golf carts, which include the Shark Experience, an interactive GPS giving dynamic distances and touchscreen interaction to help you play your best. Plus, with Bluetooth, radio, and surround sound, you can enjoy yourself between holes too. Book online at CanyonRiverGolfClub.com. Missoula's best golf, Canyon River.
Garden City Paint and Glass in Missoula is like your paint doctor. They take the pain out of painting. Don't trust your home to anything less than professional PPG paints from Garden City Paint and Glass. Go to visualizecolors.com. Scan in your room photo to see what color combinations will look best before painting. That's visualizecolors.com. Featuring professional PPG paints. Garden City Paint and Glass in Missoula, across from the Southside McDonald's at 3217 Brooks.
In Western Montana, we know shopping local matters, and you may think you'd pay more for the quality and customer service that comes with it, but not at Selway Armory. Selway Armory is locally owned with knowledgeable specialists that can answer your questions. In addition to the expertise, though, Selway Armory also has a bigger selection and lower prices than the box stores. When you're in the market for firearms and accessories, save money with the experts at Selway Armory. Selway Armory, 2825 Stockyard Road, Unit E6, and online at selwayarmory.com.
Hey there, Colter Nuanez from Tutel Nuanez 1029 ESPN Missoula, here with Tom from Aspen Sound. Tom got me a great deal on an automatic car starter this winter. Now it's summer. What sort of stuff you guys got going on down there, Tom?
Well, Colter, coming into the summertime, we're picking up on the window tinting front. So if you need your windows tinted, give us a call. We'll get you scheduled up. Boats and ATVs are starting to come in full swing, and we're also starting to see the hot rods come out to play. Anything audio related, let us know. We'll get you taken care of.
Feel the music at Aspen Sound.
Hey, Tutel Nuanez here. Can't tell you how many times we've heard the face for radio joke since we came on SWX television, but it's been a fun endeavor so far.
And now our esteemed producer Tommy is pushing the envelope even further. We got our own YouTube channel.
That's right. If you want to watch us every day from your computer, your tablet, your cell phone, you can check out Tutel Nuanez on YouTube.
Tutel Nuanez, live every weekday from 4 to 6 in the afternoons on 102.9 ESPN Radio for Missoula, SWX Montana statewide, and now around the planet Earth on YouTube.
ESPN Missoula Sports Center.
Hey, boys and girls. How you doing? It's a Friday evening. Let's talk about some sports news. The Grizzly football team fortified the interior of their offensive line Thursday, officially adding 3-star rated guard Moses Mallory to the squad. The 6'3", 295-pounder is ranked as the 8th best junior college guard in the country, according to 247 Sports. The transfer from Eastern Arizona College chose Montana over offers from Weber State, Jacksonville State, North Alabama, Tennessee State, and Stephen F. Austin.
Friday, UM also confirmed the addition of graduate transfer Ryder Rice, a Savage, Montana native who spent the last 4 years playing D-end at Rocky Mountain College in Billings. Last season, the 6'6", 220-pound former Class C standout earned NAIA All-American and Frontier Conference All-Conference honors after leading the league with 12.5 sacks.
Montana senior linebacker Dante Olson has also been added to the American Football Coaches Association 2019 All-State Good Works team. The award is given annually to college football players for the impact they make off the field. Olson is one of 137 student-athletes with inspiring stories of community service who were nominated by their respective institutions for the 2019 AFCA Good Works Award. Just 2 players from the Big Sky Conference were nominated. Jake Mayer, the quarterback for UC Davis, was the other.
This ESPN Missoula Sports Center is brought to you by Aspen Sound.
I hate it when I'm on a short mouse. You know what I mean? Oh, sorry.
I do.
It's really annoying. This is also something that burns Tommy up too. because he just starts yanking on the thing. Hold on, say something.
The thing that's so funny is we could not do any of this stuff without Tommy Evans, and he's not here, so he's not listening to the great compliments that we're giving him right now. But Tommy's not only the engineer of this whole thing and makes sure that all the radio machines work for our entire broadcasting group, but he's also the IT guy. He's the everything guy. And Ryan, unsurprisingly, has no idea how to operate.
Extend a mouse.
That's not something that you should know how to do, so that's okay. But your chronic and never-ending problems with Microsoft Word are they are just too funny. Tommy's gonna quit because you can't operate Microsoft Word.
I can't operate because I don't have it. It's Tutel Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio. It is annoying. We are broadcasting live from the Kurtz Polaris studios. Kurtz Polaris is at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula. I'll bet their Microsoft Word works just fine, and their Excel spreadsheets too. And they've decided on those spreadsheets that they're going to hook you up for their birthday. I like that. When you go to the birthday party and you're the one getting the present, that's nice. And that's what they're doing for you. They're offering 30% off. That's right, 30% off MSRP on select parts and accessories with the purchase of any new Polaris off-road vehicle, Husqvarna and Beta dirt bike, or any Crest pontoon boat. Some restrictions apply. See Kurtz for details. Get to Kurtz Polaris, Missoula and Sealy all month for Kurt's 30-year anniversary sale. Coulter, NFL.com put together their list of the top 5 wide receiving duos in football coming into this season. And there are some interesting, some good, some potentially good tandems out there. I think there's also some really bad tandems out there. The New York Jets come to mind. Potentially the Seattle Seahawks come to mind. Yeah, so any case, let's go through the top 5 according to NFL.com, and then you and I can discuss some others that maybe should have been on the list. First, this is in order, by the way, 1 through 5, tops through 5. The Cleveland Browns, number 1, with Odell Beckham and Jarvis Landry. Number 2, Stephon Diggs and Adam Thielen from Minnesota. The Chargers, superlative wideouts, Keenan Allen and Mike Williams. Then the Rams, which I find interesting because they used Robert Woods and Brandon Cooks, did not include Cooper Kupp into that, but they're really a threesome there. But Woods and Cooks, and then finally the Raiders. 3 California teams. How about that with Antonio Brown and Tyrell Williams? I don't know how many people were aware. Everybody talked about Antonio Brown, but Tyrell Williams, who was on the Chargers, now a Oakland Raider. So there's the top 5 according to NFL.com. I got some issues with that. What's the matter? You need a pen?
Well, I'm good. I got my brain.
Okay, that's right.
So those bulleted ones are the top 5 according to NFL.com.
According to NFL.com.
Okay.
So I'm going to say unequivocally I agree with the Cleveland Browns. Of course, you knew that I would say that. But yes, I not only should, of course, they're on the list. I have them at the top of my list as well. And frankly, I don't think it's all that close. Minnesota, I sadly agree with as well. They are at 2. I think I think Stephon Diggs is one of the most underrated wide receivers in football. His ability to catch traffic.
And Thielen's numbers you can say that he's overachieving all you want until you look at the fact that he's had straight up 3 straight 1,300-yard seasons.
No, but here's the thing. I don't think Thielen's underrated. I think Thielen's properly rated, and he's rated as a top 10 wide receiver. Stephon Diggs is a top 10 wide receiver. I don't know if people think of him as that. I think of him as the number 1 on the Minnesota Vikings. Yes, I do. I think he's better. I think he's unbelievable.
The Vikings are so interesting because the Vikings are one of the only teams in the league that plays a true X and Z wide receivers. Those guys play distinct positions.
Right.
And what I mean by that is that Julio Jones plays X, but Julio Jones plays whatever you want him to play.
Right.
DeAndre Hopkins plays Z, but he plays whatever you want him to play. He can play all of it. Yep. Name the letter. He can play M if you want him to. I mean, the Rams and the Vikings are the 2 teams that kind of have the defined positions where the guys don't really move. And so it's actually hard for me to say who is the number 1 because I think that they're both really good at what they play. Stephon Diggs and Adam Thielen, that is.
Yeah, they are. This is where it gets a little muddied for me. The Chargers, Keenan Allen and Mike Williams. I'm not big on Mike Williams. I think Keenan Allen's phenomenal. I think Mike Williams is good. Together as a duo, where are they at? The Rams, the Raiders, okay, we can get into it. Here's a couple of tandems, though, that I think need to be thought about here. Atlanta, you mentioned Julio Jones, but also with Calvin Ridley.
Yeah.
I mean, that's real deal.
Well,
it's as real as it gets, right?
Absolutely. Julio Jones is the best receiver in the league.
Well, I don't know about that, but he's top 3.
I mean, with exactly where we are at right now, I think that I think Antonio Brown might be able to step back into that top 3 level. But to me, it's Julio Jones and DeAndre Hopkins and everybody else.
Yeah.
Just because I think that those two guys are right now they are truly in their physical prime. Antonio Brown can still produce, there's no doubt, but he is just one step past his physical prime.
I mean, if we're talking about talent, if we're talking about ability, there's Odell Beckham is also in that group. He's in that group. I understand why
he is.
He brings stuff that you don't like, that those other two don't. But if you're talking about just a dude on the field playing the position of wide receiver, Odell Beckham is not just there, like close to there. He is one of the 3, and I don't know what order. Okay?
Calvin Ridley just had such an underrated rookie season, too. I mean, he caught 10 touchdowns.
Right.
I mean, when you have a guy opposite of Julio Jones who catches 10 touchdowns, I mean, that's pretty dynamite.
Well, and I also think that Calvin Ridley kind of came on late. I think they didn't start to kind of get going with him. I got to look at his game-by-game stats to remember, but I think Calvin Ridley's really good. He is, though, just a sophomore in terms of his NFL deal. And 10 touchdowns is great. 821 yards is not overwhelming. There's plenty of guys who have better numbers than that, but I think if you talk about the opportunities he got, he made the most of those, and I expect him to be better this year than he was last year, statistically and otherwise.
I just think you would be so scared of. I mean, you're more scared of that duo than any other duo because Calvin Ridley runs 4.3. When you got 2 dudes that run 4.3, look out. I mean, no one has that. They're the only team in the league that has that. Yes. As far as the rest of this list goes, I just think that you have to have Houston and Atlanta in the top 5 because they just have the 2 best guys. I just think DeAndre Hopkins by himself, no matter who the other guy is good enough to be in the top 5 because DeAndre Hopkins is that good.
Well, the other guy that's with DeAndre Hopkins is Will Fuller, and
he's good.
He's better than good.
Yeah, when he's healthy, he's really good.
You want a fantasy sleeper, people? Here you go. Will Fuller is your guy, and he has dealt with significant injury, and he's been knocked out the last 2 seasons, 2 season-ending injuries. But he has been just a touchdown machine, especially in Houston opposite D-Hop when he's been in the game. He's been absolutely fantastic. So that they're there. Here's another one for you. Tyler Boyd and A.J. Green. A.J. Green is, Pro Bowl wide receiver. I don't think they're on the list because I think Tyler Boyd is only okay. I think he's good. I just
don't think A.J. Green's as good as the other guys we're talking about.
Oh, he's not as good as DeAndre Hopkins and Julio Jones.
Or Antonio Brown. Who's better, Stephon Diggs or A.J. Green? I think Stephon Diggs is better.
Let me ask you this. Go to Cincinnati and catch footballs from Andy Dalton and let me know who's great. And the fact that he has been an outstanding and consistently year in, year out, not just productive, but top shelf productive wide receiver, I give it up to A.J. Green.
Yeah, except for that Stephon Diggs is doing it with Case Keenum. Here's the thing. You could dog on the Red Rocket Andy Dalton all you want. He's still better than Case Keenum or Kirk Cousins.
No. He is better than Case Keenum.
He's better than Kirk Cousins.
He is Kirk Cousins.
Except for without the misperception or the $80 million guaranteed.
Well, he does. Oh, I don't know about that. Not guaranteed, yeah. Anyway, the other one is Kansas City. Tyreek Hill and Sammy Watkins. And you said to me earlier, is there any player that leaves more to be desired than Sammy Watkins in terms of wide receiver? And you're probably right. I mean, what people thought he was going to be, he just is not. He just didn't. But he's still pretty good. And the other thing is this is where I struggle a little bit is if we can't base this off of numbers because the numbers are so impacted by who's pulling the trigger. When got Patrick Mahomes, you're probably going to have some pretty good wide receivers.
Well, and when you have Travis Kelce, too. I mean, Tyreek Hill makes so much money on those wheel routes up the sidelines because Kelce eats up the whole middle of the field.
So, I mean, you get all that, but I think they're there. I do think Houston needs to be on this list. I think certainly Atlanta needs to be on this list. And I would bump out
the Chargers.
I would bump out the Rams. I mean,
well, here's the thing. The Rams are distinctly different than every other team we're talking about because the Rams are a trio.
Exactly.
And none of those, if you're talking about like Madden ratings, I would say each of the three Rams receivers are like 88s.
Yes.
But together they're like a 97.
Correct.
Because of the way that they work in interworking parts. And that is why, so your girl, Mia Kimes.
Yes.
She was on, Mina Kimes was on the Dan Le Batard show.
Yes.
Yesterday. And they were giving her all sorts of hell because she had a hot take. She said, I think that Cooper Kupp is more important to the Rams offense than Todd Gurley. And Stu Gatson and Dan Le Batard were just roasting her, just killing her for that. I agree with her.
Mm-hmm.
I think Cooper Kupp is the most important person to the Rams. He's not their best player. He's not even the most talented of any of those guys, but he's the most important one because he can play that slot and he's running the option route every time. So he's the one that's running either himself or his teammates open. Brandon Cooks is half as good without Cooper Kupp, but Brandon Cooks is all-pro when he has Cooper Kupp next to him, and Robert Woods is a borderline all-pro too when they have Kupp. I thought the Rams took a significant step back on offense last year, not when Todd Gurley was unavailable, when Cooper Kupp was unavailable.
Let's be clear. He is not more important than Todd Gurley, but Todd Gurley, injured, he is more important than. And when I say injured, I don't mean injured like can't play. I'm talking about what we saw out of Todd Gurley the last 3 weeks. Well, you saw Todd Gurley for the first, 13, 14 weeks of the season. That is more important.
Okay. I mean, Todd Gurley was the offensive MVP of the NFL for the first 12 or 13 weeks of the year. I mean, he's a touchdown machine. He's a freak.
Yes.
I'm just talking about in the scope of their scheme.
I
guess I'm not articulating it properly. Cooper Kupp is the screw that makes the whole thing go together. If you don't have the part that is Cooper Kupp, none of the rest of it works as well.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's a system.
I understand. And that's why, if you want to talk about offenses and, wide receiving cores or whatever, the Rams are right there in the top 3 probably. But if you're talking about who are the best duos, a 1 and a 2, the Rams aren't on this list as far as I'm concerned.
I think the Chargers aren't on it either because I think that Keenan Allen is good, but I don't think he's as good as the other. He's not as good as Odell Beckham. He's not as good as Antonio Brown, DeAndre Hopkins, Julio Jones. I don't think Keenan Allen's as good as either of the Vikings guys either.
Well, I think Keenan Allen is in that 6 through 6.
Who's better, Keenan Allen or AJ Green?
They're close. I give it to AJ.
I would too.
Yeah.
So therefore, you're talking about. I mean, Keenan Allen's really good, but he's like the 8th or 9th best receiver in the league.
Mm-hmm.
So and when you pair him then with Mike Williams, who's okay but not great, I don't think he elevates them into that top 5. I think that the other, and I don't think these guys deserve to be in the top 5, but I do think that there's 2 other duos that are on sort of bad teams that are better than people maybe give them credit for, and that one is Mike Evans and Chris Godwin in Tampa Bay. Just because Mike Evans is a beast, man.
He is a beast.
And like Tampa Bay has been largely disappointing since
Chris Godwin? I mean, not that he's, but
he's pretty good.
Just a guy.
But I'm just saying that I think that Mike Evans is better than Keenan Allen. I think I would rather have Mike Evans than AJ Green too. I mean, Mike Evans is only 25 years old.
Mike Evans is outstanding.
I mean, he was second in the league in receiving last year.
The only reason Chris Godwin gets mentioned is because he's Mike Evans' teammate.
Well, totally. But I'm just saying that I think that Evans is good enough to elevate you at least into the conversation here. I mean. Mike Evans had 1,524 yards receiving last year. He averaged 18.7 yards per catch.
Yeah,
he's got 5 straight 1,200-yard seasons to start his career.
Mike Evans is dumb.
I mean, he is ridiculously good.
Yeah.
And the other one, I think that these guys are just worth mentioning, but I don't think they're anywhere close to the rest of this. But I do think that they're a little bit underrated, and that's Marvin Jones and Kenny Golladay for the Lions. They both were 1,000-yard guys last year. The Lions throw the ball more than anybody in the league. I mean, Matt Stafford, I think, has 2 of the top 4 most pass attempts in a single season in the history of the league, including the number 1 record that he set a couple years ago. So, it's prevalent. They have hardly any run game. Their run game is basically by throwing it to the running back as an extension.
Johnson maybe, helping a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, he had a couple all right flashes last year, but again, I don't think either of those guys are elite, but as far as 2 pretty solid guys, those guys are pretty good too.
Yeah, I just can't get there.
Well, yeah, no, I agree. I mean, they're not in the mix with any of the other.
Yeah, it just here's the thing. Their numbers are really good. They're going to be productive. They're going to be fantasy guys. I actually think they're not as good as their numbers bear out because of the reasons that you just said. Like, what are they actually accomplishing there? And if you have as much opportunity, if you're throwing the ball, I mean, actually Atlanta does throw the ball a ton too. But I just think there's I don't know. Just can't ever get there with Kenny Galladay, Marvin Jones. All right,
rank them 1 through 5.
Cleveland.
You got Cleveland 1.
Cleveland 1.
Okay.
Uncontroversially, Cleveland number 1.
Okay.
Minnesota 2.
Wow.
Atlanta 3. Houston 4. And I'm going to stick with the Chargers. Maybe Kansas City 5.
Very good. I got Atlanta 1.
Atlanta 1.
I got Atlanta 1.
Okay. It's you're wrong.
I just think Julio Jones is better than everybody else, man.
But see, the thing is that it's 2.
I understand. I think Calvin Ridley's really good.
He's not even in the same sniff as Jarvis Landry. Not even the same sniff. Jarvis Landry.
I think Jarvis Landry's overrated.
Oh my gosh. Oh man, that makes me so mad. I mean, how can you even say that? He's caught more footballs in his first 5 years than almost every.
Well, right, because he plays in the slot. What's he averaging per catch? About 6.5 yards?
Who cares, dude? Who cares?
He's
catching the football in Miami and in Cleveland, and he's shredding up the NFL record book.
10 catches for 67
standing
yards.
on one leg. Coulter, this is for you.
That was your Burn Street Bistro Burn of the Week.
That is such an ice-cold take by you.
Don't get fooled by fantasy football, boys and girls.
Let's give away something to make me feel better. When I get mad, I got to do something nice. There's nothing nicer for heading into a weekend. Going to be a nice warm weekend in the state of Montana. Get yourself a 6-pack, something good, and a sandwich from our friends down at Warden's Market.
All you got to do is just give us a call right now. We'll put your name on the list and go tell the boys down at Wharton's you got yourself a free sandwich up to a $10 value and a free 6-pack up to a $10 value. About $20 to spend down there at Warden's Market, one of the institutions of Missoula, Missoula's oldest grocery store. Delicious sandwiches. They got the deli all revamped. They're rocking in there. It's as good as it gets as far as the sandwich you're going to find in Missoula, and one of the best beer selections in town, too.
And don't kid yourself. Missoula's a beer town. Okay, Western Montana, everybody like that. But not everybody actually knows beer. Okay?
These guys know what they're doing.
You want an expert, you need to ask a question, not feel embarrassed about trying to figure out, well, what's good and what's not good. Go to Warden's Market, okay? These people, they do know what they're doing, and they will help you. That's what they're there to do.
No doubt. Warden's Market right there on the corner.
329-1899. Second caller right now. 6-pack and a sandwich from Warden's Market. 329-1899. I had something to talk about. You made me so mad now.
Jim Harbaugh and Urban Meyer.
No, it's something else. We'll get there.
No matter how far you may go, there's always one just down the road. Town Pump, who pump it up, pump it up.
Stop into Town Pump this summer for all your cold beverages. Enjoy your cold one at the lake or on the porch. Pick up Miller & Coors 12-pack cans, 2 for $20. Enjoy summer for longer with Mix and Match 5-hour energy shots, 2 for $5 at your Town Pump.
Town Pump, right down the road, pump it up. Oh, yeah.
Alpine Touch has mastered keeping your taste buds happy by spicing up anything you throw on the grill this summer. Now, let Alpine Touch keep your mouth watering whenever you want their new sunflower shooters. Their new jumbo sunflower seeds seasoned with Alpine Touch's world-famous all-purpose seasonings. And Alpine Touch sunflower shooters will be available all summer at every Osprey baseball home game. Available at retail locations around the state and online at alpinetouch.com. Alpine Touch, Montana's special spice.
Canyon River Golf Club is a must for any golfer in western Montana. Tucked away in a spectacular setting along the Clark Fork River in East Missoula, Canyon River offers one of Montana's best championship golf experiences. And Canyon River is happy to announce their new fleet of golf carts, which include the Shark Experience, an interactive GPS giving dynamic distances and touchscreen interaction to help you play your best. Plus, with Bluetooth, radio, and surround sound, you can enjoy yourself between holes too. Book online at CanyonRiverGolfClub.com. Missoula's best golf, Canyon River. Hey, everybody. everybody. Here with my good friend Josh from the Advocates Injury Law Firm. Josh, if I've been in an accident, how much is it going to cost me to hire you?
Well, we take cases on a contingency fee. And what that means for you is that if you're hurt in an accident, we only get paid if you make a recovery. You'll never owe us anything out of pocket.
What about the call for a consultation?
That's not a problem. We don't charge anything for an initial consultation, so you have absolutely nothing to risk by calling us.
If you're injured in a car accident, call the Advocates, 640-4444, or online at montanaadvocates.com.
The Big Sky Breakdown at SkylineSportsMT.com continues to give you the inside look from around the Big Sky Conference and the state of Montana. The most in-depth podcast in the Treasure State gives you multiple episodes each week year-round with commentary, analysis, interviews, and entertainment from around one of the most storied conferences in the West.
Whether it's full uncut interviews with Montana State head football coach Jeff Choate or Travis Secure's thoughts on his outstanding Montana men's basketball team, everything you need to hear is available on the Big Sky Breakdown. Take a look inside the best stories in the conference and the most detailed analysis in the state. The Big Sky Breakdown, it has you covered.
Whether it's X's and O's acumen of Brooks Nuanez or the comedic banter of Ryan Tutel or the dry humor of Andrew Houghton.
And don't forget the best connections to everybody that matters in the sports world across the Big Sky Conference from Colter Nuanez. And by the way, thank you for calling me funny.
You're welcome. The Big Sky Breakdown will present you with all of it and more at SkylineSportsMT.com.
The Big Sky Breakdown, proudly presented by Town Pump Food Stores and Selway Armory.
If it matters to Missoula, it matters to us. Ryan Tutel and Colter Nuanez on 102.9 ESPN Radio.
What better way to get into the weekend than with Blur? Song 2? I'm into it. Tutel Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio, broadcasting live from the Kurtz Polaris studios. Kurtz Polaris at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula, Highway 83 in Sealy. Online at kurtzpolaris.com. They are celebrating their 30th anniversary. That's right, 30 years they've been in business, and they're offering you this month 30% off. 30% off MSRP on select parts and accessories with the purchase of any new Polaris off-road vehicle, Husqvarna and Beta dirt bike, or any Crest pontoon boat. Some restrictions apply. See Kurtz for details. Get the Kurtz Polaris in Missoula and Sealy all month for Kurt's 30th year anniversary sale. If you missed anything in the show, listen on the podcast. The podcast available all the time on all your favorite podcasting platforms. Yeah. Sweet stuff up there on the podcast for you to go check out, link to. It is there thanks to the Wingate by Wyndham Hotel. Colter, what do you think about Blur, dude? Are you into Blur?
You know, I don't really have an opinion.
You don't?
No.
Now, you know that the guy, the lead singer of Blur, whose name I don't know who it is also the mastermind and the guy of the Gorillaz.
I did not know that either.
Yes. English guy. Started out in the rock and roll world doing that whole thing and then got all animated with it.
I'm out.
Not into the Gorillaz, dude?
Well, he's British.
You might not be Austin's friend anymore.
We have Cal Davis on the line, just moved from Pennsylvania, and would say you guys are doing a great job.
All right. We got no, this is, I want to this is an interesting development that we've had here on the show. Okay, we're going to go to the phones. We're going to take a call here. We're waning down here towards 6 o'clock, towards the weekend. We're going to go to the phones and welcome in a guy from Philadelphia who, if I'm told in my ears correctly, is Cal Davis, which ironically is a Big Sky Conference institution. Do we have this right? Are you Cal Davis? Is this accurate?
Yes, it is.
Do you root for the Aggies, for UC Davis, given the fact that that's your name?
You know, when I was younger, I didn't know UC Davis existed, so I rooted for California.
You know, when I was younger, I didn't know anything existed. And now that I'm older, I'm still not so sure. But, Cal, we appreciate you calling. What's up, man? What can we do for you here as we wrap it up on a Friday?
Hey, fellas, I just wanted to get in real quick and let you know you guys are doing an amazing job. I moved here about a year ago. Listen to you pretty much every day after work, and makes my drive home better. Won a couple of free wings and six-pack and a sandwich from Morton's just topped it off for me. So just wanted to say you guys are awesome.
Okay.
Let's go. Love it.
We appreciate that. For those of you keeping score at home, this was not a plant by us. This was unsolicited by Cal Davis here.
Cal, do yourself a favor. As a guy that's new to Missoula, Everybody down at Warden's is great people. They're all good people. The kids that work in the evenings are awesome. They'll help you out. They know all the stuff. But if you want a real Missoula experience, you got to go in there during the day and ask for Mark.
Yeah.
Because Mark is one of the funniest guys in all of Missoula, and he will show you all there is to offer at Warden's Market.
Mark's an institution in the institution.
Yeah, I mean, Mark could be the mayor if he wanted to be.
Right.
Mark knows every single person's name that ever has come into Warden's in the last 25 years. It's amazing.
Cal, we appreciate you calling and saying such nice things, and we're glad that you've been a winner. And welcome again to town. We hope that a year in, you're still feeling as good about Missoula as you possibly can.
Hey, it's been awesome so far, and like I said, you guys make it better. So thank you again.
You got it, man. Thanks very much.
And a tip to everyone. I've won a couple things. All you got to do is call in. It's that easy, boys.
That's right.
It's that easy.
Shout it out. It is that easy.
Gotta love it.
We want the people to go away happy. Oh, that was very nice of Cal. Make
Give
me feel
the people
good.
what they want.
He got me over very quickly, you saying bad things about Jarvis Landry like somebody who doesn't even know about football. Yeah, dude, Blur and the Gorillas. People don't put that together. You got to get over this British thing, dude. The British have brought quite a lot to more recent history. Historically, the British are, they're about like everybody, not good. But if you consider, from the 18th century forward, 19th century forward, really. Hey, by the way, last thing here, Colter. Tomorrow. Now, don't do this to me with your conspiracy theories. Just play along, would you?
Okay.
We landed on the moon 50 years ago tomorrow.
Okay, I'm into that. I believe.
You're not a denier. You're not
I'm not a denier of that. No.
50 years ago tomorrow. I was thinking about this. My folks would have been like 18, 19 years old at this time. Can you imagine thinking, the land? I mean, I still can't believe that people have been up there. I mean, I do believe it, but I'm just saying it's a remarkable thing.
I mean, last Saturday, I was floating the river, and a gigantic hailstorm hit, and it just. At first, I was laughing, and I'm like, I was going to sit here and enjoy this. Whatever. It's hailing in the middle of July, and I'm in the middle of the river. Mm-hmm. And then it was such big hail that it was just pelting me, and it was hurting. So then
it was a weird.
We start paddling our caravan over and get it, and we get under some trees. And all I thought to myself was, once upon a time, Lewis and Clark rode from St. Louis up to Great Falls upstream the whole time. The point is that humans are amazing. It's amazing that we've gone to the moon. It's amazing that we've settled the West. It's amazing that we've done anything. It's how is any of this stuff possible?
Here's what's crazy to me. You know how far we are from space? Sitting here,
right?
Do you know what the answer is? Like
tens of thousands of feet.
No, tens of thousands of feet.
Yeah,
but that's not like 10 miles.
Miles, right?
10, 12 miles, and you're in space.
Wild.
Now, guess how far the moon is? Any idea?
Oh, man. Hundreds of thousands of miles.
238,900 miles.
It's wild.
You're 10 miles away and you're in space, and you still got 238,890 miles to go, and there they go, flying off, landing on the moon. Shout out.
Cheers
NASA.
to the Apollo guys.
To the Apollo guys, Buzz Aldrin, all of them. Have a wonderful weekend. Osprey at Great Falls, 3 games starting tonight. Enjoy them. We'll see you Tuesday for me. Colter Monday. Have a great weekend.
Most of my family, they never graduated high school, so I'm trying to break that barrier. My daughter, Brooklyn, was also a motivation for me to go back to school. Every day after work, went straight to school, and it paid off.
At age 26,